Good morning, Vietnam. Welcome to another episode of Vietnam Innovators. I'm your host, Hao. Thank you for tuning in and week out. In case you've not followed this podcast before, Vietnam Innovators is all about featuring growth and inspiring stories about entrepreneurs doing business here, not just for Vietnam, but for the entire world, in fact. And one of my good friends here living in Ho Chi Minh City is Matthew Tran, the founder and CEO of Birchbury Shoes, who's part of that whole story. He started a brand here, manufactures his product here, his team is also here, and he ships it to the US where all of his customers are. And quite an interesting story. He also used to be a former YouTuber, but I'll let him explain more about that in just a little bit. Matt, welcome to the studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a crazy story. So I started Birchbury 2019, right before things got crazy with COVID, and it's been 4 years now. But honestly, it just feels like I just got started. So every day I feel like every day is still a new challenge for sure.
Goes way back with me. I've known him for probably around that time, or if not earlier. He came here to do YouTube videos, and he was like scouting out the potential of manufacturing in Vietnam. At the time, he lived in the Philippines. We had some mutual friends. He is Vietnamese American, so that helps a little bit with just wanting to be here. But upon his research, I guess you made the move out here. Right. And I remember you texted me being like, hey, I'm coming over during quarantine and doing all these different things. You have this Asia experience already, Matt. Tell us about why Vietnam. Like, why did you choose this place to not only live, but to start your business and make it happen here?
First, I was a YouTuber for 8 years, and I was very tired of it. I was very tired of talking on camera because there's a stage personality, and then there's the regular you. So every time you gotta talk, you gotta have this personality. Otherwise, people, I don't know, the energy isn't there. So I guess got tired of being an influencer. So I wanted to go into making my own brand. So I went to a conference in Hong Kong called Global Sources, and so I was talking to suppliers there, and I actually met a supplier that I was interested in that was from China. But then, like, as soon as the conference is over, they handed me to a project manager that essentially didn't know English, right? So there's nothing that could get done. So I go online, I make a listing somewhere, and I get there's a lot of individuals you have to go through when you go through this process. But eventually, I found someone that made a sample based on my description, and since she had already put effort to make the sample without me giving her any money, I was like, okay, this person's pretty serious about me. So then I flew from the Philippines to Vietnam to meet her in person. And then when I saw the shoe, I was like, okay, we're 80% there. We're 80% there. So what I did was I pretty much just like took those photos and did pre-sales. I did pre-sales with like Facebook and Google ads, and we were able to break even with that. And then since I broke even with that, then I felt safe to do a mass production order of 500 shoes. And that's a very safe decision to make because I already had the money in my account. Right, so that's pretty much the sense of how I got started. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs these days, it's just like the convenience of doing business in Vietnam is just so good in comparison to other countries. So I just think it for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's making more and more sense.
Amazing. Thank you. I didn't know those details, by the way. For the audience, I've known Matt for a long time, but didn't know those precise details. Walk me through the pre-sale thing.
Yeah.
This is a bigger picture about startup building and starting a company, but people think, oh, you need $100,000, put all the money down, build it, and hope people come. But you took a different approach. You invested some money up front, of course, not that much money, and then you did Facebook ads. How did that work?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people think that starting a business is really risky, but I think you can minimize your risk if you just like test things before going head in. And then so for me, I knew that buying 500 shoes without having any kind of brand would be absolutely ridiculous. I think it was like $13,000. Like if you're gonna drop $13,000 on an idea without testing it, I mean, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So what I did was I had the sample, and I said, look, there's two ways I could do this. I could either do pre-sales to product validate, to validate the product. Is there an actual demand for this product? Because if I can't pre-sell this product at break even, then there's no demand for this product. So the equation is quite simple. If you can't pre-sell it, then don't buy it in bulk, right? So there's two ways you could do it. You could either do it like on a Kickstarter, or you could do it on your own website. So everyone's like, oh, go on Kickstarter, and this is a couple years ago when there was some more Kickstarter hype. But I was like, okay, like what's going on with Kickstarter? And with the Kickstarter, I was like, okay, when do I get my money? They're like 2 weeks after the campaign is over. I was like, what? So I gotta pay for Facebook ads for like the whole pre-sale, and then I'll get the money 2 weeks after the campaign is over? That's like I had to front thousands and thousands of dollars. And then, by the way, I'm sure if something's like bad happens, what if something, Kickstarter, someone at Kickstarter doesn't like me, and then they're like, oh yeah, your Kickstarter, we don't like it, so we pulled it. And, go screw yourself. So then I felt like, whoa, there's an inherent risk by being on Kickstarter. So then that's when I had pre-sales on my own website. Because if you have pre-sales on your own website, then you can get the revenue immediately. And then you can use that revenue to buy more ads to do more pre-sales. So then you know the equation of like, if I could break even during pre-sales, you're pretty much guaranteed to be profitable when you have the inventory in stock, because it's going to convert much better than a pre-sale.
Did you have anyone to talk to about this when you were thinking about how to do this pre-sale?
Yeah, this is all like when I was in the Philippines, I was in a group of mastermind of like other entrepreneurs, and I saw individuals throw 20 grand at Amazon products that I'm just like, I mean, you're like, bro, like one was like a toy to teach kids how to dive. I'm like, what, the most dangerous activity for kids? Like, you want to teach that through a toy? Like, no.
And you're going to invest 20K.
And you invest 20K without product validating. And so like inherently the idea was bad, but you can catch that by product validating with a pre-sale. But it's a lot of upfront work, and it's not exciting.
How did you get the trust? How many customers participated in the pre-sale, and what were their questions, if any, or were there a lot of people just being like, oh, Facebook ad, click, buy, and you never even heard from them? Talk us through the kind of customers that were making this bet, and have some of them kept in touch with you? Or are they buying the newest types of Birchbury too? When
you start a business, especially e-commerce in 2024, like you can't be a noob. Like if you're gonna sell something like 6 months in advance to somebody, like the photos have to be on point, the page have to be on point, like the copywriting has to be A level at least. And if you're not, like for example, I want to start a business and I'm only C level or B level at copywriting, I don't even know what A level looks like. If I'm only C level at photography, I don't even know what a good picture looks like. I don't know what it takes to make a good picture. A picture that doesn't just look good, but a picture that's gonna sell. That's gonna convert and be like, damn, I want to put my credit card in and buy that thing based on that picture. So unless you're A level at all of that, I don't think you can't even do pre-sales. It's too hard. It's too hard it sounds hard because it is hard to sell something 6 months in advance. Yeah. Then the second thing is, it has to be like a problem that they've been thinking about for a while. Like, God damn, if someone just sold this, I would buy it. I'm willing to wait 6 months because when customers leave comments and reviews, they'll be like, I've been wearing shoes for 60 years. I've been waiting for a shoe like this. So what's 6 more months?
Yeah. So I assume you had this problem yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you are answering your own problem basically. And you had this idea that if I'm thinking about it, probably enough people are also as well, so I can make a business off this problem, it sounds like.
So that's actually comes into another deeper thing, is that I was actually bullied for my big feet. Bullied for my big feet.
Okay, what was the bullying like?
So I have big feet for my height. Like we're the same size, even though I'm like shorter than you.
Yeah.
So it's like I have like hobbit feet. I'm like short and I have big feet. So like that's something I was like picked on for. That ended up giving me more passion to solve that problem because I couldn't find good-looking shoes for my feet size, for my height.
So you've been suffering all these years.
So I've been suffering all these years. And so when I made the shoe, and none of my friends in the Philippines are like, dude, Matt, you're whack, dude. You think you can make a shoe brand? Like, no way. You're a YouTuber. You cannot make a shoe brand. But I was like, as soon as my supplier made the shoe and I had it, the final version, I was like, damn, it works. So it really does work.
As we continue along with this podcast, for the audience to know, Matt shares quite a lot publicly about
Yeah.
the progress of his company, which is from his YouTube content days. I think something he learned, and the business has done very well. In fact, we're wearing Birchbury right now. So I'm wearing the classic design, I believe, and then
Yeah.
Matt is wearing a new prototype. So he's obviously gone on to do a couple versions of Birchbury now. I love these shoes. I do not have wide-toed feet, but maybe a little bit bigger than average, but I just enjoy wearing them because they're very comfortable. Matt, let's switch gears a little bit. I think the whole pre-sale and the challenge and problem that you were solving, it's super clear. And I love your enthusiasm about the pre-sale thing, like uncompromising, you have to be A level. And a lot of people, they might be wondering like, no, you can try and fail, but for pre-sales, maybe not, right? I want to move over to the business as it is today. You've built I believe it's a multi-million-dollar business. You're a very small team. What are your philosophies about running this business now that you can reflect on the last 4 or 5 years? Like, what has enabled it to be where it is today? Is it a small but world-class team? Is it being uncompromising about that A-level quality? What are some things you can highlight for our audience to take away?
Yeah, it's gonna
I know
sound.
that's a big question.
I know it's a big question.
Yeah.
I think the question was like, where do I get like? So to recap, yes. So this year, Birchbury, we made 3 million in revenue. Last year was 2 million, and then the year before that was 1 million. So my goal is if we could make like just 1 million more in revenue per year, I'm like very happy with that. I mean, this is gonna sound so ridiculous, but like my business like management and like strategy comes from World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft,
Okay,
straight
so
up, like
I've
100%
played
World of Warcraft.
Very long time
Yeah.
ago, but walk us through
Yeah.
for those of you that don't know World of Warcraft.
So, like what I've noticed is like in the game is like people feel like most engaged, like most cool when you have like people of different classes like working together harmoniously, and then somehow like you just get this loot at the end of this dungeon, right? Well, like business, like Birchbury is like the same thing. I have like, in a game, you might have like a warrior and a mage and a priest. Well, I have like me, a Facebook ads guy, a Google ads guy, a video guy, a customer support person. And so like each person has like their role. It's almost like their spells in a game. And people get the most satisfaction when they combine your spells together in an artistic way. When you're like, dang, 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 bang, and you're like, whoa, like as a team, like we just made that. Like my team doesn't even understand where the money comes from. They're just like, what? Money just comes out? I just take pictures and money comes out? Like, yeah, that's pretty much it. And you're like at the top as the tank, and World of Warcraft, the tank is the leader. As a tank, you're just overseeing all of this, and you're like, dang, that's pretty cool. Like, so we got the picture person over there, we got the ads person creating the ads from the pictures, then we got the customer support answering the conversions of like the customers. So it's just like you just watch all of it, and you're just like all these specialists just doing their roles, just put the. It's a mage casting a frostbolt, it's a priest casting a heal, it's a tank casting a taunt. Like, it's all these things working together.
Do you tell your team this?
No. This is so crazy that I think, like, I'm still scared. Like, this is my first time talking about this because it's a little bit.
I like that.
It's a little bit out there.
Because people say they overcomplicate things, or they want to sound like geniuses, so they come up with these big words and big phrases and stuff. But I think for small, medium entrepreneurs, and one day Birchbury could be very large too, is we need to simplify things a little bit and make things relatable. Like when you mentioned video gaming, I played my fair share of video games, not as much anymore, but I used to build my own PCs. I used to play Age of Empires, Counter-Strike, everything. And I'm sure a lot of young Vietnamese people today who might be listening to the podcast, or even the team listening here right now in the studio, they've probably had some shared experience about either World of Warcraft or another video game. So that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned like, oh, I take photos and money comes out. Could you play the role and maybe empathize with your team a little bit? So we're here as the tanks, the leaders.
Yeah.
What do you think your team is thinking when it comes to being part of a startup? Like, is it afraid, or do they have like fear, or like, oh, will this company die tomorrow? Or is it more like they enjoy the beat and the pace of a startup? Is it because they really believe in the mission too? I don't know if all your staff have wide-toed feet or not, but or maybe they like the principles and mission.
Yeah.
Put us in the shoes of one of your teammates right now. Like, what are they believing and thinking when they're an employee of Birchbury?
This is also where I get a lot of inspiration from World of Warcraft, is because what I realized in like a team, in a small team, you get the most satisfaction when you're like the one person that can do that. So in Birchbury, we have like one person that could do each thing. And in the nature of e-commerce, you really do want a small team because you're going for like profit margin, right? But when it comes to like my team, they feel like, I don't want to call it a family because it's not a family, but it's like a long-term team. It's almost like a guild in World of Warcraft. It's like, because family, that's like my wife. My wife is my family. You're not my wife, you know? But it's like, you're my guild. You're the people that like day in and day out, we're gonna go in this dungeon, we're gonna go on quest. And what I've noticed is that guilds that had high turnover had poor performance in the long term. They didn't survive. It was the guilds that I'm like, damn, 5 years later, 10 years later, you guys are still playing? And they're just like, yeah, it's actually easy for us because we have so much cohesion because you made the mistakes together. It's what I made realize. Like my team, like pretty much no one quits Birchbury. Like you just cannot quit because like, because like it's just so fun. It's just so engaging when you see like the combination of our skills just make a lot of money. And like, I think the first thing that an employee will do when they get to a new company, regardless of a startup or not, is test the competency of their leader, right? So I think a lot of people just do this subconsciously. You're just observing your leader. Like, is this someone worth following, right? Because once an employee has determined this is not someone worth following, they're just there for a paycheck, right? But once they've determined like, oh, damn, this is like, all right, this is the guy. Like, this is the guy I want to work for. Then now they're engaged. Now they're not going to leave. The second thing is you got to have like a clear progression system for them. So what I'm noticing from World of Warcraft is if there's no progression, people cancel their subscription and they stop playing.
It's like the levels and all that, right?
If there's no quest, there's no reason to play.
Yeah.
So I had to put like a very clear progression for their salary, which I think is very unheard of for when people have overseas staff, like Southeast Asian staff. But no, there's a very clear salary increase. I don't know, plan or I don't know, schedule.
Yeah, sure.
Schedule, yeah.
So again, for the audience that is not familiar with Matt or this podcast, just FYI, we're both Vietnamese American.
Yeah.
You come off as very American. People say that about me as well,
Yeah,
Matt, and I think we both know that as well. People say it in a place like Southeast Asia and Vietnam especially, there's some pros and cons of working with a different life approach, not only to life, but just working style. Like I find that Americans are very merit-based, and I believe your system, from what you shared, is very driven by that. But at the same time, Asians are very collective, and we're Asian too, right? You look at our families, we're very collective people.
Yeah.
You mentioned family, and you're very protective of that because we're a collective thinking people. And collective, if you look at work in Vietnam, everyone has to go lockstep. Like an independent person, even if they're a star and they try to do their own thing, it may or may not work. Walk us through that balance of being an American, but also Vietnamese, working here and with a Southeast Asian team and some Americans as well. How do you find that difference? And keep in mind, Matt's worked in Asia for probably about 10 years now, so he has experience. But walk us through that. And how has that influenced how you built the Birchbury team too, which is multilingual, but also multi-country based?
The experience I think blew my mind culturally the most was like flying when I was 27 years old, like 7 years ago or something, 8 years ago. I flew to the Philippines by myself, and that experience blew my mind because I didn't really get like, people can speak English, but you think totally different. You think absolutely different. That was a really eye-opening experience to me, that there's multiple worlds out there and there's multiple ways to see the world. I mean, that first in itself was very eye-opening about going to multiple different countries and living there and actually meeting the people is very important because I think if I had not lived in the Philippines, I don't think I could set up a system that makes my staff happy. Like I would probably be trying to impose like some American values. Like for example, in America, you always try to promote people to management, but like the people in my Philippine staff, they don't want to be management. Like management of what? They just want to be good at what they're good at. They just want to be like technicians at their skill. The idea of management is silly to them. So I think like living in that country and then understanding the culture and how those people operate. For example, with Filipino staff, don't ask them to work Sundays. It's a hard no for them because that's a very special day for them. That's a very special day for them.
It's also religious.
It's religious, right? Like you don't mess with it.
Yeah.
Right? But if I'd never been to the Philippines and you start asking, your Filipino staff to work Sundays, you don't even realize you're crossing a really big red line for them. Really big red line.
Okay.
So I think those nuances, like, you only get from living in the country.
And okay, Philippines, Vietnam, two different places, but a lot of similarities as well, I'm sure. Let's zoom in on that. And I mentioned that and asked that because I'm going to do a little plug here. We're going to release this episode before our Overseas Vietnamese Summit. And you'll hear stories like Matt's at that program. People are wondering, here in Vietnam, you've been here 4 or 5 years now, any differences to highlight between Philippines and Vietnam / America? What is your experience, especially when someone of Vietnamese blood and descent as well?
I think it just depends on what problem you're trying to solve in your business. If I'm looking for a customer support person, I'm just going to go to the Philippines. It just makes a lot of sense. There's a lot. They're English fluent. They're really good at it. It just makes a lot of sense. But if I'm going to look for getting anything made, it's going to be Vietnam. Like, they don't really have manufacturing in the Philippines. That's why I think being on the ground is good, because then you know which Southeast Asian country specializes in what, because there's a clear difference. Even though it's like, yes, we're Southeast Asia, what each country offers is completely different. And you got to respect those differences. I think anybody that comes here, VidQ or not, and just thinks like, yeah, I'm VidQ, I can run the show. It's just not going to be like that.
Yeah. Did you learn that the hard way, or you kind of knew that, and I'm sure you made mistakes, but you've...
So I made a lot of mistakes during YouTube days before I arrived in Vietnam.
And YouTube was in the Philippines.
YouTube was in the Philippines. YouTube was great because that was a sandbox for that. In my time that I've been in the Philippines, and then now we're here in Vietnam, I think, and especially after COVID, like, it seems to become like a more mainstream thing of VidQs coming back. That's why I think you're having that event, the VidQ Homecoming, is because like this is like a really big growing trend of people wanting to return home. But I think a lot of what I've seen as this is a trend is like, you ask VidQs, why do you want to start a business? And they're like, because I'm VidQ. Like, what? Like...
They say that, really?
No, because I'm VidQ, but like that's kind of like the central answer. It's like, oh, I'm here. Like, I love Vietnam. Okay, cool. Like, why do you want to start a business? Like, I'm VidQ.
And the motivations just
like,
seem really strange.
It's usually a self-indulgent reason. It's like, I want to live in Vietnam, or I want to show people back in the US that Vietnam is not like what it used to be. It's like, bro, like, who cares about that? That's not a problem that people are going to pay money for.
Right.
So I think when VidQs start off, like, you got to look at the whole premise, the whole crux of the foundation of the business comes off of like, why? And if your why is, because I don't like my job and I want to live in Vietnam, I mean, you could just get a remote job or something. You don't got to start a business. But like when you're starting a business, like the crux has to be like, I'm making a wide toe box leather shoe better than any other company in the world. Has to be something like that. Like something that, like, if you don't wear my leather shoes, wide toe people are going to be in a lot of pain. And so they buy my shoes because it prevents the pain. Done, right? And so because the foundation is good, I could actually have a ton of mistakes, a lot of mistakes. But as long as every day I keep selling shoes and there's people that like my shoes, even if 20 or 30% don't like them, I'm still getting 30 or 40 or 50 new customers a day. And so losing 20% customers, it doesn't matter. I just got to keep selling new shoes every day. But the reason I can keep selling shoes every day is because at the crux, my shoes help. I mean, our reviews are insane. I mean, the people that say, like, my shoes have like, how to explain it, like, changed their life. There's a lot. So.
No, that's amazing, Matt. And, I like what you said about essentially solving a problem and not being self-indulgent.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to zoom in on Vietnam specifically, but a lot of people that come here, they see opportunity and they want to have that lifestyle of just being in Vietnam, or the idea of owning a business. But I tell people the same thing. Owning a business is not easy, and it's not fun sometimes. So it's not necessarily the answer to all the opportunities that you might have. Like, working a corporate job or any job at all, it could be just as rewarding, as long as that mission is consistent. Like, if your mission at the beginning is to help people solve their foot problems, great, and just keep that going. And then chances are you'll probably be successful. It might take 1 year or 10 years, whatever it might be, but you'll probably work it out. But if you have to change that mission, or that mission is flawed from the beginning, then you're going to have an issue. So, or not sustainable. That's maybe a better way to put it. And so, Matt, you spent a few years in Vietnam now. What's a reflection of just living here as an American? Do you find yourself wanting to go back? I just had a dinner with a friend last night from Los Angeles. He's Vietnamese American. He's now 50. He was telling me how I wake up every day wanting to have moved to Vietnam. I wish I did it 20, 25 years ago. I was like, wow, every day. Like he has a brother doing business here, been living here for 2 decades, and he's been quote unquote kind of stuck in America because he has kids now, which he has a responsibility for. And he's like, wow, I wake up every day thinking, what if my life was here? Do you have any thoughts about that? About if you had to go back to the US or something similar? Yeah.
So, to the podcast viewers out there, my mom passed of cancer 4 years ago. Yeah. So ever since my mom passed, after COVID and some years, I moved to Vietnam, and really I haven't had a reason to go back. And I think when you there's a feeling in Vietnam. I think it's a special feeling in Vietnam where it just feels really nice out here. Feels really good out here. With the USA, I appreciate my time there, and I think it's a very efficient, productive place. But I do like the slower lifestyle that Vietnam has to offer.
Slower, people say it's super faster because of the bikes, but where you live and just the environment you've built for yourself.
And the environment I built for myself, and I think in America, I think they can get caught up in a lot of ways. There's a certain each country has its own culture and its own line of thinking, and I think in America they're more generally more capitalist than they think they are. And so me living to Vietnam, I should phrase that differently. I was more capitalist than I thought I was, or in the capitalist system. So then, coming to Vietnam and going to a more socialist system, I was like, wow, like this is actually has some good parts of it too. It's not all bad. So and then it gave me like a really good understanding of like, hey, like, it's not just about money. And we just said we were talking. This is a business about podcast, but like, really, I could be happy in Vietnam with making a lot less. Just a few $1,000s a month. I'd be just as happy here in Vietnam, and you can't say that about USA. So for me, I like that aspect about Vietnam.
Yeah, I think what you just raised there is very important, and the idea in America, there's a very commonly used idiom like the rat race, right? You can apply that anywhere, to be honest. But in America, it's like accentuated and amplified because everyone is so type A and wants more, and the consumer thinking is like that, which again has good and bads. And I think America kind of made who we are. That's another thing. But in Vietnam, where definitely young people are more ambitious than the generation before them. I would just go off and say that first. And maybe that's just because of global trends, perhaps, and education and wealth creation. But in general, yes, people are less about wanting to be that manager, right? Actually, I spoke with a friend from China the other day. China and the US are very similar in terms of mindset.
Really?
She was telling me that everyone in China in a corporate or even startup setting, they're going after the manager role, even if they're not ready, because they want that.
It's just a mentality.
It's mentality.
It's just a mentality.
It's not because they want to be a manager. It's just because it enables.
That's what everyone else is thinking. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very interesting point because in Vietnam, I don't see people wanting to be managers. And my thinking when I started building this Vietcetera company was that everyone was. It's not like I thought that.
You're just on autopilot.
Yeah, it's just on autopilot. So it's not like, oh, people want to be managers, so in conclusion, we're going to do it. But it's more like, what are people's advancements? Oh, manager. But actually, it's more about, like you said, the best at what they do, a specialist or maybe something else. So that's a very interesting point that I think could be applied anywhere, really. But in America or like a China, like everyone wants to be like 90%.
And it doesn't even make sense for everybody to want to be a manager. Like most people are not good at managing other individuals. Like just most people are not. Like it takes a lot of compassion and patience to be a leader. Honestly, there is a very unique experience that most people will never understand. It's like when your staff loses you a lot of money and you just got to pay that person next week anyways. And that is like a feeling like until you've had that feeling, I don't think you've been a real boss yet. You're not a real boss
that's
yet.
an interesting
That's
Sometimes you're
that's
tempted
a
to be like-
visceral experience.
Yeah. Matt, did you always want to be a manager, or is this something you when you started Birchbury? Because a YouTube channel, you didn't really have to manage anyone except for yourself, basically. But at Birchbury, different kind of business. You have teams, not huge, but you have teams. Did you expect to be a manager? Were you wanting to be, or did you learn on the go?
I mean, I hired people to solve a problem. Like I was doing YouTube at the time, and then like after you edit 20 thumbnails, you don't want to edit another thumbnail. So then the first thing I hired was like, make thumbnails for me. So that Jessa, who's been with me for like 7 or 8 years now, she started off making thumbnails for me. And then I didn't want to edit the video, so then I hired a video editor. So I know it never came from like, I want to be a manager of people. Like, I just don't want to do this tedious task anymore, so I guess I got to have somebody else do it. That's pretty much it.
Okay, and now that you have a different business, a bigger P&L and operation, do you want to still be a manager, or are you learning on the go? Like, talk us through that.
So I've learned through World of Warcraft, like there's 2 sizes of groups. There's either a 5-man or a raid. And this goes into a lot of group psychology, but you're either going to have a group of 5, or you may as well have a group of 10 plus. Because there's an awkward between 6 to 9 is like very weird. So you want to have a group of 5. And so the group of 5 is really, in World of Warcraft, the positions are like, you have a tank, you have 3 damage dealers, and then you have the healer. Right? So Birchbury is set up exactly the same way. Like we have me, I'm the tank. We have the creative director, so he's the guy who actually shoots the videos, the photography that people see on the website. Then we have the campaign managers. So those are the people running the Google and Facebook ads, right? So they're another DPS. And then the third one is, what's the other one? Logistics company. We actually have to ship the shoes to somebody, right? There's another. So the third is like I hire a third-party logistics company to ship the shoes, to receive the returns. So that's a very important role too. And then we have Jessa, who's like the healer. She's the support of the whole thing. And so like I think 5 is like the perfect number if you're going to do a small team. And if you're gonna go 6 or 7, then you just got to go straight to 10 people, because I think it just doesn't make sense. Like the leadership is weird, because then if you have 7, do you manage all 7? If you have 8, do you manage all 8? But once you have 10, now you can get an assistant tank, assistant leader, and now it's much clearer in the structure.
It's like the point of no return.
It's the point of no return. So I've decided 5 is my jam, because at 5. In World of Warcraft, I could clearly see all the spells. I could see the Frostmage shooting his thing. I could see the priest shooting his thing. And when we worked in conjunction, we could do combos together, just like combos in League of Legends when an AD and a support, like they combo together. When you see it, it's like super sick. You can combo together like that in a small group, but to get that same combination in a raid and a 10-man group, you cannot, because there's too many individuals. Like it won't be as sick.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a hypothetical scenario.
Yeah.
What if you had a team of 10?
Yeah.
What does that look like in the Birchbury world?
I don't even know what I would do with the extra 5 people.
You wouldn't know, you don't know.
I don't know what I would do with the extra 5
But what if the revenue
people.
demanded it? Let's say you start making $20 million and your output needs to increase. What would you do?
First, customer service.
Would you just sell the business at that point?
No. I mean, you just gotta hire the people, but I mean,
You haven't thought that far yet.
well, to me, I would prevent the situation. Like I would just
Prevent the revenue growth?
I would just change the goal. I would just change the goal. Yeah.
Okay. What do you mean change the goal? Like in terms of revenue targets?
Yeah. Then I'll just make less revenue.
Okay. You're okay with that?
Yeah, because it's more to me like. Also, what I've realized, what I learned through World of Warcraft is like you just got to play every single day. Like you got to play. It's like a business is like playing a game that's hard and stressful every single day. And so if I don't enjoy it, I'm gonna quit. And for me, I don't enjoy leading raids. It's not fun for me. I don't like managing 10 people, 20 people, 25 people. It's just not fun for me at all. Like I like 5. 5 is my number.
Okay, I'm gonna give you one last hypothetical before we move on from this topic. Let's say you have a team of 10 or 25 now, okay?
Sure.
And everything's going great. You've endured through this pain for 2 years, but you reflect and like, wow. And then you hire a new tank and you're kind of like above the tank now. Would that be a future for Birchbury?
So I've learned this about myself through World of Warcraft is I have to tank. Because I've played damage dealer before, which damage dealer, you're essentially, to be quite frank, you're like a follower because you're following the tank, right? The tank leads. And like, dude, I just can't watch someone else F it up. You know, like, because you're just watching, you're just like, damn,
It
dude,
pains
like,
you just to
you suck, dude. Like,
You
come
suck.
on, man, just let me do it. Just let me, that's
get out
my
of the
person,
way,
that's
man.
me as an individual. I was like, just let me do it, man. Just let me do it. And that actually gives me less stress than watching someone manage poorly. Honestly, it really does.
Okay.
It really does.
No, I
yeah.
think what I've learned today from you, Matt, and hopefully the audience too, is as long as you know what you want to do,
Yeah.
like nothing else really matters.
Yeah.
And you can stay zeroed in on that target. I think that's something I've been challenged with because we're kind of close to the point of no return of et cetera. And for me, I want to go beyond. Again, that's a personal choice.
Yeah, that's you.
Whereas some people might, in my position may say otherwise.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
as a business, we're actually very similar size. Matt in terms of revenue and not team size, but revenue, most likely. And yeah, it's just kind of like where to go from here. We're not sure. We have a pretty good idea, but what to expect. We're kind of lining it up and making those choices now. So very interesting perspective, Matt. Matt, I'm going to give you just 1 minute while you unwrap this. So these are some shoes here. We'll just let the audience see. For those of you listening on Spotify or Apple, you can click the link and just check it out yourself. I'm going to give Matt 1 minute to unwrap that a little bit. But meanwhile, I want to ask and pose a question to you as we wrap up.
All right, so this is our dress shoe, Brenston. Has a wide toe box. It's slip-on with elastic laces. And I think the most important feature that customers like is that there's actually no heel on the inside. It just has a fall heel, and then it's completely flat inside, which is really important if you're gonna be wearing the shoes for work. If you're wearing the shoes 8 hours a day, you're gonna feel that heel. So it's really important to get rid of that heel. This is actually a top revenue product because people have to buy this for work. So the black Brenston is something like 30% of our revenue because people gotta buy black, comfortable dress shoes for work. So simple shoe, simple color, but like, yeah.
Awesome.
Big.
Well, thank you, Matt. I wear the shoe. I wear the dress shoe as well, and it's fantastic. So yeah, just to follow up on that past question, Matt, I'd love to hear from you. What do you want to know? Because today, hopefully, the audience has learned a thing or two from you. What would you like to learn as an entrepreneur yourself?
Yeah, I think one of the most common problems that I've seen for people wanting to do business in Vietnam is that there's no Alibaba or no centralized source of suppliers here in Vietnam. So I think more content on where's a central hub of suppliers, and also what are the tell signs of like how am I know I'm getting scammed by somebody, because this is just an international wire at the end of the day. So USA bank account to Vietnam bank account, like there's no promises after that, right? So I think that's something that I think scares me a lot.
Have you been scammed before?
I think I got close to getting scammed.
Okay, but
when I made that listing, I was looking for suppliers. I think there was more scammers than legitimate people. Not scammers, but people who are not good. I'm not sure if we'll call them scammers, just people who are not good at what they do. I don't know.
So Matt, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. I've known you for a very long time and we've chatted so many times, but nothing like the World of Warcraft topic. So I really appreciate that. And for the audience listening on today's program, I hope you learned a thing or two as well. If you're curious about Birchbury, you can just drop Matt a note, perhaps on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever he's online, or just birchbury.com. You can't buy the shoe in Vietnam, actually. That might change in the future, but for now, you can buy it in the US. So if you're anywhere in the United States, you can use the link. Just check it out. Could be interesting for you. But if not, look forward to having you on another program of Vietnam Innovators. And in the meantime, take care and goodbye. Thank you so much. Take care.